This is a quick video to explain how to use the A07 Health and Safety Assessment form. You can find the form on our resources page under the Neat Audit section, and it's A07 Health and Safety Assessment. When you click on the link, it is a Google Sheet, so it's going to ask you if you'd like to make a copy of this document. And by making a copy, you'll always get the most recent, most current version of the form. So you'll click to make a copy, and it will open it up as a Google Sheet. Now, if you are just looking for a printable PDF version of this form, there's a link. Once you make the copy, there's a link right at the top that you can click on, and you can open up a PDF version, and you can print that off and fill it out on paper if that is what you prefer. If you're going to do that on paper, you will fill it out in a very similar manner that you had to with the old form. Page 1 is actually the assessment or the summary of all the items that you have identified during your inspection. So you'd really start on page 2 and you go through page 2 through 6 and go through the home and indicate whether there are any issues, whether you identify anything going on in the home. And then once you're done with that, you would return up to page 1 and you will transcribe or copy all of the issues that you found into this section, the assessment summary. You need to indicate the location and any notes, and then also the agency's responsibility and the client's responsibility. We are required to document both of those things for all of the issues that we find, so make sure and fill all those out. And then you would have the client sign here at the bottom. But that's how you would use just a paper version of this form. Now, if you would prefer to use an electronic version, I have built the form both ways, and this is the electronic version here in Google Sheets. So let me show you how you would use that. First thing I'd recommend that you do is change the name of the document from copy of to something more meaningful, probably with the client's name in it. In this case, let's pretend that we are working with a client named Bob Jones. So we'd go ahead and put his name in there, and this is his A07 Health and Safety Inspection form. And then I've tried to put in visual cues that are just have conditional formatting. So anytime you see a box that's yellow, it means you need to do something. So we'd go ahead and put in Bob Jones's name here and list yourself as the, whoever the energy auditor is. I will list myself, and then the date of the assessment, and then this is the electronic form here is actually in 2 worksheets. The first worksheet is the health and safety checklist, so you'll start right into the checklist, and then the second page or the second worksheet is actually that client summary. So you'll notice that it's already pulled over Bob Jones and my name and the date of the assessment, but it really doesn't have any issues listed or anything yet. But as you fill out the checklist, it will automatically populate that list. So let's fill out some of the checklist. Now, first thing on the checklist is to talk to the client, see if there's any pre-existing health conditions that could be made worse during the weatherization process. Bob's told us that there are none, and you'll notice that by selecting this top option to indicate that there's no problems with this particular aspect of the inspection, it'll just gray out everything that's associated with that to give you a visual cue that you're done with that section. So after talking to Bob, we did an initial walk around, and we haven't found any reason to defer the job. So same thing there, we would just indicate it's safe to proceed with weatherization. Since this home was built in 1992 and we didn't see any suspected asbestos containing material, we'll indicate that there are no issues there, and then move on to safety devices. So in this home, we found that the safety devices do not meet code. We're actually missing some smoke alarms, and we're missing some CO alarms. So I'm going to indicate we're missing some smoke alarms and we're missing some COs. And you'll notice that when I check the box on each of them, I get that visual cue of a yellow box that I'm supposed to do something else. Now, on many of these issues, there are multiple different options that you can select. When it comes to smoke alarms and COs, there's really only one option. And I apologize to make you check a box a second time, but it actually drives the code or the logic behind what fills out our client form. So I apologize for that, but you do have to check that box. And then again, once you've checked that box, notice it gives you another visual cue that you need to make some notes and you need to indicate what the client's responsibilities are. So the agency's responsibilities are going to be to install smoke alarms. And the notes, you might indicate, hey, we need 3 of them or something, so, or install 3 or whatever. And then the client's responsibilities, even when the client has no responsibilities, we are still required to document that. So we'll just go ahead and put none. For our missing CO alarms, let's say that we need one in the CAS. So, and again, the client has no responsibilities for that one. But that's really how it works. It's just going to give you a visual cue just to show you what it looks like when there's more options. Let's say that the water heater fails worst case draft test, and now you can see here's all of the usual options to solve that problem. And let's say that we're not seeing any issues with the slope on the flue. The flue's already a 4-inch. But basically what's happening in this situation is we've added a couple of ASHRAE fans and they're causing that water heater to backdraft. The water heater is not easily isolated, so we don't want to add any interior or exterior combustion air. So really our only option in this case is that we need to replace it with a direct vent water heater. So I'm going to check that as the agency's responsibilities. You'll notice that all the other options do go away. In some cases, you may need to check multiple items, or the agency may have multiple responsibilities, and that's okay. But just once you've selected at least one of those, the visual cue is going to go away. But it gives us this second visual cue that we need to write down some notes and we need to write down the client responsibilities. Remember, anytime we are writing something down that will ultimately become an itemized cost, you have to write down the reason why. So under your measure notes, you're going to put the reason why. So in this case, we're going to write down that the ASHRAE fans caused the backdrafting, and that the CAS is not easily isolated, and that really our only option is to replace with a direct vent. And then once you've written down your measure notes, again, document what the client's responsibilities are. The client's probably signed a corrective action plan, so you could just say follow the corrective action plan, or you could put in some more details about what that is. Maybe they're supposed to not use their water heater until you return, or whatever that plan was. So you may also notice there's a gas leak, and again, it's just going to give you that visual cue, and you can indicate that the agency needs to replace the gas shutoff valve when they install the new water heater. It's because it's leaking. And the client may have no responsibilities, or you may have told them to leave it turned off until you can come back to fix it. So now, as we've been indicating all these things, what happens is it's just automatically pulling things into the client agreement form, so that when you're done going through your checklist, you don't have to transcribe everything. They're already listed out. So now you can just sit down with the client and you can say, okay, I found these 4 issues. You're missing some smoke alarms, some COs, and here's what we're going to do. Agency's going to add some alarms. We're going to add 3 alarms and 1 CO alarm. And then, as we've already talked about, your water heater's backdrafting, so make sure you follow the corrective action plan, and we're planning on replacing that with a direct vent appliance. We also noticed there was a bit of a gas leak, so we ask you to leave that off till we can return to fix it, and we'll replace that when we replace the water heater. And then, so you can have that conversation with the client and have the client sign this. Now, the electronic format may or may not work for you. One of the things I found that works well is if I open this on my iPad, I can actually have the client sign this while I'm at their home, and I'll show you how I do that. So on my iPad, I'm just going to jump into Google Sheets, and if you have to, you'll search around for the Bob Jones file and open it up. And I have used Google Sheets because you can actually set the sheet to work offline, so you can get out in the field with no internet, and everything should work exactly the way you want it to work. And then notice that when you go to the client health and safety, or the client form, it's automatically filling that out for you. Now once you're done with your whole checklist, then what I do is I just go up to the upper three dots. I'm just going to send a copy. It's going to ask what format. I'm going to choose PDF, and it will allow you to send it via email. It'll also allow you to send it via any other apps you have. So I have an app called PDF Expert, and I'm just going to send it to the PDF Expert app because I know I can have my client sign it from there. So now in the PDF Expert app, it is a 7-page PDF. So I do have to scroll to the last page, which has the list of all the things we're going to take care of, has the sign off for the client. So I just go there, and then I can select to have the customer do a signature, and we ask the customer to sign it and click done, and then I just tap where I want his signature, and that's it. And then I can actually I can click to send it again or email it to myself or to the client. I can email a flattened copy. But either way, there's a really good way that you can fill this out electronically on an iPad or on a phone while you're in the client's home, and you can also get the client's signature on it while you're there, so that you can have the benefit of the electronic format without having to transcribe everything, and also get the client's signature and be done. So hopefully this is helpful to you guys. Again, this form is a work in progress, so if you're running into issues or if things are missing, please let me know. Thanks.